Hello and welcome back to yet another episode of On the Grid Podcast, Season 4, Episode 3. We're still awaiting for the season to begin, but whilst that is happening, in around a month and a half's time, we're coming back with a bit of news of what's happening in the F1 world. I'm your host, Adrian. As per usual, I'm joined by my co-host, Ethan Evans. Ethan, how are you?
Good. I'm good. I can't wait for the season to start. We've got just over a month. I can't wait.
The thing is, I'm even looking forward to preseason testing, purely on the basis of obviously we've got the new rebranded Visa Cash App Red Bulls team in there. Obviously the kick stake Sauber team has also been rebranded. And I mean, there's a few concerns about Alpine that I've seen that are rumors that they're not going to have their car ready for the launch, which is quite surprising after they failed I think they failed their crash test after the season, and they've had to kind of be on the back foot there. But let's begin with all the news that's happened so far. Well, since last episode, since episode 2. So let's begin with the Mercedes garage. Toto Wolff extending his Mercedes stay. I mean, one of the most successful team principals in the sport. So many driver world championships, so many constructors world championships. Ethan, as a Mercedes fan, how significant is it for Mercedes to keep Toto Wolff and to keep his guidance ahead of a very important 2024 season?
Oh, it's massive, isn't it? It's massive. We spoke about it last week. There's only two team principals that have been there for longer than 2 years, and over the last 15 years, they're two most successful teams. And I think there's something telling about that. Toto Wolff and Christian Horner have been there. The team is shaped around them. I think when Toto Wolff does eventually leave, it'll be a massive loss. But I think, as long as he's at the helm, as long as he's there, Mercedes are in a position where they can fight back. They've got all the tools, they've got all the personnel that was there. Apart from James Vowles, obviously, that was so instrumental for them winning championship after championship. They've got all the tools necessary to come back. They just need the time to see if they can catch Red Bull.
Also, I found a nice quote from Toto Wolff, saying he can finally see what is a good car for the first time in 2 years. Do you think that's a little bit of a promising sign for Mercedes, or do you think it might be Toto Wolff being a little bit optimistic, especially that there's been no running so far, and it's kind of just looking at the aspects and the aerodynamics of the car and not actually maybe even sim testing. Do you think that there should be optimism in the Mercedes camp ahead of 2024?
Well, yeah, look, the last 2 years obviously haven't been ideal for Mercedes. And if I think part of it is just a marketing ploy to get people hyped up for Mercedes. It's going to take a lot to catch up to Red Bull. They've got to find almost a second a lap, plus whatever advantage Red Bull have found over the winter because they haven't been testing on their car since before the summer break. So they've obviously got a lot of credit in the bank. And they will come back with a stronger car. It's inevitable. It's just about whether Mercedes can bridge that gap that was there last season and then find a little bit extra. Because I still think if you give Lewis Hamilton a car that was within a couple of tenths of Max Verstappen, he can battle him, he can challenge him. Whether that be over a season or not remains to be seen. But you give Hamilton a car that's competitive, he's proven over his entire time in F1, he will deliver. You chuck in George Russell there, they've got a good chance of winning the championship if their car's within a couple of attempts, because obviously you speak about the massive difference between Verstappen and Perez. If they can just slot into second and third there, that may not be enough for the constructors.
You mentioned Lewis Hamilton and George Russell there. Obviously, the gap in the Drivers' Championship between those two this time around was greater than the one in 2022. Obviously, George finishing in the lower reaches of the top 10 and Lewis Hamilton finishing up in third. Um, What do you think needs to happen at Mercedes for them to bridge that gap? Obviously, I think both drivers had their fair share of incidents and coming together in 2023. Do you think that both of them just really need to knuckle down and be on the same page once again, like it sort of happened in 2022?
Yeah, that, and I think Russell coming into the team, beating Hamilton at the first time of asking, may have impacted his motivation as well. If he's come into Mercedes, which has been winning races for 7, 8 years, and then he comes in, it's the third quickest car, and then he goes and beats Lewis Hamilton. Maybe there's a little drop in motivation with it being his second season at the team. I also think that Lewis Hamilton just showed the level in 2023 and just showed that he's no joke. This is how good he is, and he was phenomenal. The fact that at one point we were thinking he could finish second in the Drivers' Championship says it all, really, doesn't it? But yeah, I think there needs to be a closer connection between the two of them. They're not gonna win the championship, either championship, if they're battling each other. They need to maybe put their egos to one side a little bit, come together for the good of the team, for the Mercedes, and then work together. And like I said, you don't need to be winning the championship to win the constructors. All you need is to have that second and third. So the gap between first and second is smaller than the gap between third and fourth. And if they have that, then they're going to win. Then they can win the constructors. But that's a big if.
And we kind of looked at silly season last episode and episode two. Two drivers definitely steering away from that silly season in the summer break of 2024 is Charles Leclerc and Lando Norris. Let's start off with Charles because his contract was going to be up at the end of this coming season. He's obviously extended his dream. The boy from Monaco kind of is willing to stay at Ferrari to kind of pursue his dream of potentially getting that championship back to the Scarlet Red of Ferrari. How crucial do you think this kind of extension of his Ferrari career is? Obviously, 2022 was in a championship battle. 2023, the kind of levels dropped off with Ferrari as well, and Carlos Sainz kind of brought the consistency into the team, and Charles Leclerc kind of bought into it by the end of the season. But how crucial do you think that one driver of Charles Leclerc's caliber staying at Ferrari is for the Scarlet Red outfit?
Yeah, it's massive. I think, Charles Leclerc is a top driver. We saw that. We didn't really see it at the start of the season. I think we said that his level had dropped off a lot at the start of the season, possibly because they no longer even had the second quickest car. But he's still a top driver. He just needs he needs that experience of battling for wins and championships in order to improve, I think. But also, it makes sense for both parties. Can Ferrari attract a better driver? You look at the better drivers than Leclerc on the grid. You think Hamilton, Verstappen, maybe Alonso, maybe Norris. Are they going to attract any of those? No. And then for Leclerc, where can he go? Well, both McLaren drivers are locked in. Both Mercedes drivers are locked in. The only possible seat would be Red Bull, but they're not for this season coming. And then he's going to be playing number two to Verstappen. It makes sense. Continue that relationship with Ferrari. Build a team around him. You've got Sainz there as well. They seem to work well as a pairing. I think they're a lot closer than a lot of people give them credit for. The gap between Leclerc and Sainz, but it makes sense for both parties, and it's on a multi-year extension. When you get to the end of that, if there's still no chance of fighting for a title, it might be worth Leclerc looking elsewhere.
What is sort of concerning is I don't know whether you saw on Instagram, on Charles Leclerc's Instagram or even Ferrari's Instagram, the kind of announcement that they gave Charles Leclerc for his multi-year extension. It was this sort of like teaser trailer of him extending his stay and the dream staying alive. And essentially it is the dream stays alive. But my only concern is if they extend Carlos Sainz's stay and they don't do anything like that, there's something going to clearly happen at the team. And that's why I'm a little bit worried. But I mean, from what I've heard, um, Carlos Sainz wants a 2-year extension, and Ferrari are only willing to give him a 1-year extension, so until the end of the 2025 season. Which is why there is a little bit of problem in the Ferrari camp on Carlos Sainz's side. But they've locked in Charles Leclerc on a multi-year deal nonetheless. And for Ferrari, I think that is crucial. It's vital for a driver of Charles Leclerc's caliber to stay at a team where he's kind of, I don't want to say he's built his career on, because at Sauber in his first season against Marcus Ericsson, I think that was his kind of stepping stone and stepping into F1 comfortably. Into Ferrari's kind of just continue the flow on that. And if he is to battle for the championship in 2024, it'd be a lot more sweeter with that contract extension. But kind of linking into Charles Leclerc staying, his brother Arthur Leclerc has become the development driver for Ferrari. This comes on the back of, I think, Ferrari dropping him from the Ferrari Development Academy and him not having a seat in Formula Two. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, out there you can correct me. But this just seems very much Big Brother business and him giving his little brother a helping hand to continue his dream at Ferrari. Like we say, I think the Ferrari team are kind of set in stone for at least another 2 years, with Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc. But it does seem like Big Brother has got involved quite a little bit to help his little brother continue his Ferrari dream, doesn't it?
Well, maybe that was one of the reasons that it wasn't announced sooner. Maybe there was a bit of a back and forth on that. But yeah, from everything I've read and heard, I don't think Arthur Leclerc was that good last season in Formula Two. I think it was a little bit disappointing. I think it probably is a little bit of that, maybe getting back into Formula Two, see how he develops with being associated with Ferrari. But it's definitely his older brother giving him a little helping hand, isn't it? I think it seems.
Yeah, I mean it definitely is. I don't know whether time is running out for Arthur Leclerc. But it's definitely giving him a little bit of a boost in terms of actually keeping that dream alive. Obviously he raced for Dams, I think it was last season in Formula Two, and I don't think he recorded that good of a finish. No, there we go. From what I can see, he only got one podium and one fastest lap in Formula Two last season. And the best finish that he got in Formula Two last season was a third place finish in Melbourne, which was essentially round six. Round three of the championship. It was in a feature race. So I don't know whether Arthur Leclerc's kind of dream in Formula One is still alive, but essentially Big Brother has given Little Brother a helping hand in that one. Um, On to some more Ferrari news. There's three bits of Ferrari news that we've got here. Ollie Behrman, exciting British driver, and I think for both of us, it's very good to finally see another British driver kind of propelled into the spotlight. So Ollie Behrman, Formula Two, formerly of Prema Racing, last season, continues his road to F1 with a new role at Ferrari, which is as the reserve driver. What do you make of this news, Ethan? Behrman, I think we saw him in a championship battle in Formula Two, and if he is to go on and if win the F2 championship, there's surely got to be maybe a Ferrari link coming into the sport. Maybe he steps in at Haas or somewhere else where there's a Ferrari powered engine. But what do you make of the announcement of Ollie Behrman getting the reserve driver role at Ferrari?
Well, I called it when we were doing our preview to 2024 with the seats when Kevin Magnussen got his seat renewed at Haas. So he didn't perform well, got completely outperformed. I wonder whether they are waiting for Ollie Behrman at Haas for 2025. Give him an extra season to mature in F2. Because I don't think he would have the super license points at this moment in time anyway. But give him that extra season and then bring him in next season. And it's a useful driver. They're going to save some money, which Gene Haas would love, on wages. But I think it's brilliant to see. I think he's a top driver. I think he's going to be brilliant. And it's only a matter of time until a Formula One team snaps him up. So the fact he's made Ferrari reserve driver, hopefully he can get some outings in FP1. Because he did impress. I think he done it with Haas last season. I think he did impress in the couple of occasions that he did FP1. But, give him some more experience, get him in the spotlight, and then, hopefully we can see more from him and see him on the grid in 2025.
With him being 18, do you think that potentially the spotlight can kind of, I don't want to say kill him, but just like if he's stuck in the spotlight for too much, and he doesn't become this next Lewis Hamilton, next Lando Norris, next George Russell, do you think that could impact him in a negative way? Or do you think that Ollie Behrman, being the driver that he is, finished sixth in Formula 2 last season with plenty of wins, plenty of podiums, and not far away from the championship winner, Teo Pourchaire. Do you think that he'll take it in his stride and kind of just propel himself and show how good he is?
Well, I think wasn't Lando Norris 18 as well when he came into Formula One? So, he's not the youngest to do it. So he would be 19 next season if he does get the seat. But, it's all about timing. If all he can do is focus on his driving and then everything else will follow with it. If he has a good season in F2, there's no reason why he can't be on the grid next season. And in terms of all the publicity and everything, he just needs to keep his head down. Publicity can't be a bad thing for an F2 driver trying to get into a Formula One. Look at the media attention around George Russell when he won the championship, around Charles Leclerc, around Max Verstappen. These are drivers that had a lot of spotlight on them in the lower levels of motorsport. And look at them now; they're all Formula One drivers established at top teams. So, I think it's a good thing. I think it will put the attention on him, give himself the best opportunity to get a seat for next season.
Most definitely. On to the final bit of news from our end before we look into something else is Lando Norris committing his future to McLaren. And I think this is one of, if not the best bit of business so far this season. Obviously, Lando Norris linked with plenty of moves to Mercedes, to Red Bull. He's kind of shut them up, swatted them away, and he's committed his future to McLaren. Another driver that I think is crucial to the youthful look of Formula One. Ethan, thoughts and feelings after Lando Norris signed for McLaren on another multi-year contract. How important is it for the team to keep a McLaren to keep a driver of Lando Norris's standards?
I think it's a similar situation to Charles Leclerc, really. It makes sense for both parties. I think he had a contract till 2026 as well, or maybe it's 2025. But it makes sense for both parties again, because look at Lando Norris. He doesn't want to be second fiddle to Max Verstappen, and it's a cauldron of fire to go into. It is the hardest seat in F1 at the minute, alongside Max Verstappen, because the way the team is built around him, the car is built around him, and he's got such a unique driving style as well. It'll be difficult for any driver to go in and challenge him. And again, McLaren have got a real talent on their hands. They don't want to let him go. They want to keep him around. Are they going to get someone better than Norris? No, they're not going to. I don't think they can attract a driver that's better than Norris and Piastri at this moment in time. With the current contract situations around as everything. But yeah, like I said, makes sense for both parties. And the way that McLaren propelled themselves up the field over 2023, if they can continue the same trajectory, they will be the closest challengers to Red Bull this season, and that's a fact. So why wouldn't Norris want to be in that setup? But again, looking at it in a couple of years' time, if things change, if there's another dominant car, then reassess. But for now, it makes sense for everyone.
Yeah, what is crucial is plenty of rumors regarding him and the Red Bull seat. And he did go on to have a Sky Sports interview and was asked a question regarding Red Bull. And he even said himself it would be silly to go into a team where he's going to play second fiddle to Max Verstappen. It's Max Verstappen's team pretty much in Red Bull. Sergio Perez is more or less playing second fiddle, and I don't think Lando Norris would want to jeopardize his own number one driver role at McLaren, where he's kind of stabilized himself. He's kind of made himself a driver he is so far in his F1 career at McLaren, and why not continue that? That concludes our news section. But onto a little bit of launch dates. So all the F1 driver teams have announced their launch dates of their 2024 challenges. So Haas kicks off the launches on the 2nd of February. So in 3 days' time from this episode being recorded. Then we have Sauber on the 5th, Williams on the 5th as well. Alpine said struggling to be ready for the 7th of Feb, but they've announced for them to be ready on the 7th of Feb. Visa Cash App Red Bulls on the 8th of Feb. I'm still not going to be used to saying that team name. Aston Martin on the 12th of February. Ferrari on the 13th of Feb. Mercedes and McLaren on the 14th of February, and Red Bull on the 15th of Feb. Ethan, which team are you most looking to see the livery of their challenges for 2024?
Well, if we get a few more colourful liveries, that'd be nice. I like some of the black liveries, but there seems to be a lot of that on the grid. It makes it sometimes actually, you can't really tell some of the liveries apart. Obviously, Mercedes want to see what they produce. Ferraris is always iconic, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see if some of the new teams spice it up with their livery a little bit, won't it? Because obviously, being a new team or new team name at least, it'll be interesting to see if they stray away from what they had previously or not. But yeah.
Well, I mean, for Sauber especially, I think kick is a bit of yellow. So I'm expecting there to be a little bit of yellow in that Sauber. I mean, we were rocking the black and red, I think, kind of last season, and in previous seasons, maybe a bit of black and yellow, like the good old song, black and yellow. Williams would also be quite nice. Alpine, I mean, I'm most looking forward to the Red Bulls, I think. I mean, they've completely rebranded, and I don't know whether they're going to stick with the same color scheme or whether they'll go for a different one. I'm hoping it doesn't look similar to the actual Red Bull team. But yeah, that is all for this episode of On the Grid podcast, season 4, episode 3. Thank you, Ethan, for joining me on this episode. We'll be back next week, looking over probably one of the first few one of the first few livery and launch kind of teams when they launch their cars for the upcoming season. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.